Hey, good morning. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about playing guitar. First, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about getting a guitar. I'm going to assume that you really are a beginner, that maybe you don't even have a guitar, or maybe you have your first guitar and are just starting. So let's start from the beginning. And Christmas is less than 2 months away. So if you want a guitar for Christmas, I'm going to make some suggestions to you. First thing, if you're going to start guitar, you got to be old enough, you got to be big enough, really, that your hand is big enough to handle the neck of the guitar. I did not start with the guitar. I started with the ukulele. In fact, this is my second ukulele. I got this when I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And the neck was just right for my hand. I didn't have a big enough hand yet to play a regular guitar, although I knew I wanted to play guitar. But I started even a uke smaller than this, the little regular size uke. This is called a baritone uke, and it's quite a bit bigger than the regular. They're both 4-string. They tune different, but they're both 4-string instruments, and they've got the nylon or the gut string on them, so they're fairly easy to play. And it's not a bad idea to start with this if you're not, say, in the 7th grade or the 8th grade. You need to be 13, 14 years old before you start out with your first guitar. Now that's my opinion. I think you're going to be hurting yourself if you try to start sooner than that, unless you start with something like this. When you get your first guitar, I know you want an electric guitar. Everybody wants an electric guitar so they can be loud and play, like their favorite songs. And I play electric guitar. I've got 3 or 4 electric guitars here, and that's what I play. But I didn't start with that. I started with the ukulele. Then I went to an acoustic guitar, and I got my first acoustic guitar. It wasn't this one, but it was something similar to this. And I was probably in about I'm going to guess the 8th grade when I got my first acoustic guitar. And I played that about a year before I went to an electric guitar. And by then I knew chords, I knew a little bit about playing in different keys and that sort of thing. So it made a little more sense then to have the electric guitar. In the beginning, before you learn, you don't need to learn on an electric guitar. You're just going to irritate people. You're going to be too loud, and you're not going to be playing anything that they recognize for quite a while. Give yourself a year. Make sure you really want to play. It takes a year before you can make sounds that are the type of sounds that you want to make and that other people are willing to listen to. So this is an acoustic guitar. It does not require electricity. It's got the regular strings on it. The classic guitar that they use like for classical music, like the Spanish classical music or the higher brow type of music, let's call it. That guitar's got a wider neck on it. It's a little bit easier to push the strings down because they're nylon or catgut as they call it. But the problem is you can't do all the things I'm going to try to teach you on guitar with that wide neck, and you'll learn the wrong habits. But if you want to play classical music, that's a different story. Then that's the instrument you need. You probably need to take lessons. You probably need to learn to read music. I'm not going to teach you to read music. I'm an old man and I don't read music. I never have. I've tried a couple times, but it was boring to me. It didn't go fast enough. I wanted to play. I play by ear. I play by hearing. I play by watching other people. I have had books. I've had tapes, but nothing like is available to you nowadays. The internet is full of lessons. And if you'll take your time, learn a little bit at a time, you'll benefit greatly. You're going to need a pick. I recommend a thin, very flexible pick. I don't use a pick. We'll talk about that later, but I use my fingers. I'm a fingerstyle guitar player, so I have a hard time using a pick. I started with a pick, and I think you should too, and I used it many, many years. It's really good for rock and roll, but I got into country music, and it requires, or it is better if you can use your fingers. So that's something you might want to work on later, but not in the beginning. I say you need to learn how to tune your guitar. You need to find a piano or something that's got an E note on it. That's your first string. And tune to that note. Tune that E. To tune the next string, come down to the 5th fret. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come down to the 5th fret and put your first finger on the second string on the 5th fret, those two strings should sound the same. If this second string, it's the B string. If it doesn't sound like the E string on the 5th fret, then it's not in tune, and you're going to have to tune it. And then if you'll drop back one, this is the 3rd string or the G string. If you'll drop back one, hit the 3rd and the 2nd string together, they should sound the same. That's pretty close. It's not exactly the same. And then come back to the 5th fret to the 4th string, and do the same thing on the 5th fret to the 5th string. You see those strings match up. We've got, and there's nothing more grating than to hear a guitar that's not in tune. I can hear a guitar that's not in tune 10 miles away. This one doesn't sound perfectly in tune because the strings are about 10 years old. I don't play this guitar much. It sits in the case and gathers dust. But if you've got new strings on, you need to keep them in tune. That's very important. Learn how to tune your guitar right away. Just like that. And then the next thing I'm going to recommend is don't start off trying to play lead guitar. Don't even start off trying to play scales. I know a lot of guitar players do that, and maybe for some types of music that's great, but you're not going to be an all-around guitar player if you don't learn chords. You've got to start, as far as I'm concerned, with chords. And I'm going to be teaching you some chords. I think I'll probably start off with the key of A. It's got 3 chords. We'll play most songs, at least the type of songs we'll be talking about. And you'll have a sort of a bar chord for the A, and then you'll have a D, and you'll have an E. Those 3 chords. They'll get you through a lot of songs. Now guess what? If you had a brand new guitar, how long would it take you to do that? You wouldn't do it in one day, I assure you. It would be. And on top of that, your finger's going to be sore. And you got to wear calluses on your fingers. Like I say, it takes time. But let's not go too fast. Let's not try to cover too much. That's lesson number 1, acquiring your guitar, learning how to tune it, and thinking chords. Maybe you want to buy a chord book, because we're going to be talking about chords essentially in the beginning. So happy picking, Merry Christmas when you get your guitar, or maybe a uke. A uke's just as good. You can make some really fine sounds with a uke. So thank you very much. I'll be back soon.